There is a single fossil that forced science to confront an undeniable truth. The boundary between dinosaurs and birds was completely shattered. This fossil is Archaeopteryx, a late Jurassic creature the size of a magpie, carrying an extraordinary blend of traits: perfect feathers attached to a body with teeth, wing, claws, and a long bony tail. It was neither a typical dinosaur nor a modern bird. It was a biological mosaic positioned exactly at the fault line of life. To understand why one small fossil holds such immense importance, we must first examine the unique preservation that revealed this evolutionary secret. In the mid-1870s, when the Berlin specimen of Archaeopteryx was unearthed, naturalists realized they were looking at something unprecedented. The limestone slab revealed fine traces of feathers arranged in unmistakable patterns, yet those feathers were fixed to a body that carried a long, bony tail, clawed fingers on the wings, and jaws studded with sharp teeth. It was not simply a bird pressed into stone, nor was it a familiar reptile. It was a mosaic, unsettling in the way it combined structures thought to belong to separate worlds. To understand the impact of the Berlin find, you need the earlier discoveries in mind. The very first fossil, named Archaeopteryx, was just a single feather described in 1861. It became the type specimen, even though later work questioned whether it truly came from the same creature. That same year, the first skeletal fossil, which we now call the London specimen, was recovered and described, showing a small animal with both reptilian bones and feather impressions. These finds stirred scientific debate, but the level of preservation still left room for doubt. With the Berlin fossil, however, the argument could no longer be sidestepped. The details were too sharp, the anatomy too complete. Victorian scientists reacted immediately. Some proposed it was simply a bird with unusual reptilian features, while others framed it as a dinosaur on the brink of flight. The fossil hit the scholarly world at a time when Darwin's theory of evolution was not yet widely accepted, and here was physical evidence that categories were more fluid than tradition allowed. The creature sat exactly at the fault line, wishbone wings and feathers on one side, teeth digits and tail vertebrae on the other. The drama went beyond classification. Early critics raised suspicions that the feather impressions might be fakes etched into stone. Investigations disproved this quickly. Hairline cracks and mineral growths cutting across both fossil and matrix proved the impressions were genuine and ancient. That authentication strengthened its role as a centerpiece in debates about life's continuity across deep time. As additional discoveries appeared, the London specimen gave way in importance to the superior detail of Berlin's slab. The avian traits were undeniable: flight feathers and a fused clavicle, yet the dinosaurian hallmarks were equally clear. Naturalists argued about which side of the line should claim it, but the fossil itself refused confinement. For the public and for many scientists, it was received as the long-sought evidence Darwin had predicted a tangible form bridging major groups. This left one final puzzle hanging over the find. Feathers vanish in almost every other fossil site on Earth, yet here they lay in fine relief after 150 million years. The explanation lay not in the bird, but in the environment where it was buried. The setting that made this possible was the Solnhofen limestone Lagerstadt, an exceptional deposit where the chemistry of the environment allowed the preservation of tissues almost never seen in the fossil record. In the late Jurassic, southern Germany was covered by a shallow sea, broken into reefs and islands. Some basins became cut off from flowing seawater, forming still lagoons with poor circulation. On the seafloor, oxygen levels dropped so low that scavengers and burrowing animals could not survive. Animals that died here settled into fine carbonate mud, where they were left undisturbed long enough for even delicate structures to imprint against the sediment. Normally, fossilization strips life down to bone or shell, erasing anything fragile. But in Solnhofen, the chemistry slowed decay, while the mud recorded thin outlines in remarkable detail. This is why feather impressions appear beside the skeletons of Archaeopteryx so clearly that individual barbs can still be traced. Scientists can examine these slabs as if they were natural blueprints from 150 million years ago, a level of detail almost unheard of anywhere else. Importantly, these fossils were not swept in from distant regions. Evidence suggests that the animals preserved here, including Archaeopteryx, lived on the small islands surrounding the lagoons and ended up in the water after death. That means the assemblage reflects a local ecosystem rather than a random mix, letting researchers reconstruct the habitats where these creatures actually lived. The Solnhofen quarries also produced other extraordinary snapshots. Workers searching for fine lithographic stone often found faint outlines of skeletons and occasionally discarded them, unaware of their significance. Later specimens of Archaeopteryx, such as those from Eichstätt and Thermopolis, were recovered from these quarries and studied with proper care. Under controlled lighting, paleontologists could see not only bone but also traces of muscle attachments, claw sheaths, and complex feather arrangements. These details turned Archaeopteryx from a skeleton into a textured, almost tangible animal. The same layers held a surprising range of life pterosaurs with wing membranes, preserved crustaceans frozen mid-movement, and even jellyfish organisms that normally leave no trace at all. Together, they form a panoramic record of Jurassic coastal ecosystems, an archive that would not exist without the unique conditions of these lagoons. For Archaeopteryx, this meant immortality as the first clear, feathered dinosaur in stone. But finding feathers in the rock only opened a harder question. Were those feathers for show or for flight? At the center of Archaeopteryx's mystery lies the challenge of defining what kind of flyer it really was. The feathers were genuine and well developed, yet when scientists examined the skeleton, the picture became less clear. Archaeopteryx lacked the large keel of modern birds, the breastbone ridge that anchors powerful flight muscles. Without it, muscle mass would have been limited, making long stretches of sustained flapping unlikely. Its tail was long and stiff, built from 24 vertebrae more suited to balance than aerial streamlining, and its bones were denser than those of later birds. The combination raised doubts about its capabilities. These anatomical points inflamed debate for decades, with each new specimen and study producing fresh arguments rather than closure. Two main schools of thought emerged. One saw Archaeopteryx as a glider descending from branches with little more than gravity and outstretched feathers. The other allowed for active flapping flight, though only in short, limited bursts rather than extended journeys. In either case, it was not a streamlined long-distance traveler like modern crows. Instead, it hovered in the grey area between ground-dwelling dinosaur and fully capable bird, able to use its wings, but not as its primary means of living. Adding to the puzzle was the shoulder and breastbone arrangement. They do not match those of modern birds, which means if Archaeopteryx did flap, it probably used a modified stroke that relied on shorter, more powerful beats rather than continuous motion. Earlier research had even claimed the feathers themselves were too weak for flight. In 2010, Nuds and Dyke suggested that the rachis, the central shafts of feathers, were too narrow to withstand strong aerodynamic forces, implying Archaeopteryx could not sustain powered flight at all. Yet this was challenged by newer studies. In 2018, analysis of wing bone geometry showed that its forelimbs carried features consistent with short active flight. Think pheasant knot hawk bursts of wings snapping open to launch the body into the air, but never built for miles of endurance. That balance of evidence, weak feather shafts on one side, supportive bone structure on the other, kept the argument alive rather than resolved. The Thermopolis specimen added further nuance. It revealed Archaeopteryx lacked a reversed hallux, the backward toe, crucial for firm perching. Without it, the image of a treetop glider became harder to maintain. This pointed instead to a lifestyle spent closer to the ground, where wings may have served as emergency escapes or quick accelerators rather than routine travel. The claws on its fingers and feet suggest it may have clambered over uneven terrain, perhaps scrambling up trunks or rocks before taking wing in sudden flapping bursts. Taken together, the evidence paints a creature at a biological crossroads. It was capable of flight, but not in the sense we recognize from modern birds. Archaeopteryx lived with limitations imposed by its dinosaurian body plan, yet it still found ways to put its feathers to use. It could probably evade a predator with a frantic dash of wings, cross a clearing in a few rapid beats, or surprise small prey with sudden aerial pounces. But wings were only part of its survival story. The claws, teeth, and powerful jaws built into its frame tell us it was also a hunter, and that brings us to the question of what kind of life this Jurassic animal actually lived day to day. Imagine a crow-sized animal navigating thickets and rocky clearings equipped with claws, teeth, and feathered wings. Archaeopteryx occupied an ambiguous niche where it could be predator and prey at the same time. Its small size made it vulnerable to larger hunters. yet its tools gave it the ability to turn on insects, small reptiles, or anything it could manage to catch. This balance shaped a life that was versatile rather than specialized. Its late Jurassic neighbors included quick theropods like Compsognathus. That creature was lightly built and relied purely on speed, whereas Archaeopteryx carried a different strategy. Its teeth and claws added predatory advantages, while its wings gave it a brief edge in bursts of movement, either to launch at prey or escape from danger. Claws and teeth made Archaeopteryx a generalist predator, able to seize insects midair or grab small reptiles on the ground, giving it versatility while its wings provided escape and short pursuit capability. Dietary details remain uncertain, but most researchers infer that Archaeopteryx likely fed on insects and small vertebrates, a conclusion drawn from its size-tooth shape and the fauna preserved in the Solnhofen deposits. Its lack of a heavy beak paired with sharp dentition suggests it could pierce or tear rather than peck, a toolset more generalist than the specialized bills of later birds. From this perspective, wings and feathers may have been as useful for maneuvering during hunts as for evading larger threats. Picture a crow-sized animal dropping from low vegetation, snapping up a lizard, and disappearing into scrub with a single wing beat. The skeleton offers more clues. Archaeopteryx had bones sturdier and heavier than most modern birds, not ideal for long flights. But that durability supported strong, rapid movement suited to sudden acceleration. Short, powerful downstrokes could carry it upward for a few moments, enough for a quick strike or escape rather than keep it sailing for long distances. This anatomical compromise matches a predator that relied on ambush and agility rather than energy-efficient soaring. Another key feature was the presence of 3 clawed fingers, still protruding from each wing. While feathers stretched outward, those fingers remained functional. They may not have been designed for sustained grasping, but they likely played a role in climbing or steadying prey. Archaeopteryx's lifestyle was shaped by such half-dinosaur, half-bird compromises, where climbing, scrambling, and brief flights all coexisted. Fossil details sharpen this picture further. The Thermopolis specimen showed that Archaeopteryx lacked a reversed hallux, the backward-pointing toe modern perching birds use to clutch branches. That finding, along with toe pad impressions in both the Thermopolis and Chicago specimens, points to stronger ground grip and a life spent more on land and trunk surfaces than high in tree canopies. Rather than a skilled percher, it seems more likely to have foraged along the ground or climbed before launching into sudden aerial bursts. Brought together, the evidence suggests an adaptable but limited hunter. Archaeopteryx combined claws, teeth, and feathers into a toolkit that offered flexibility, not specialization. It could chase insects, take small vertebrates, and slip away from predators, but it remained caught between forms. Its survival depended less on mastering flight and more on using every advantage in balance. That delicate balance, however, would prove challenging to maintain in a world that was beginning to reward refinement and specialization in early birds. Archaeopteryx is one of the most celebrated transitional fossils dating back to the late Jurassic. It presented a stunning mix of traits combining dinosaurian features like teeth-wing claws and a long bony tail with avian traits such as feathers and a wishbone. Its discovery was a pivotal moment in science, as one fossil slab from German limestone forced naturalists to confront the fluid boundary between dinosaurs and birds head-on. The exceptional preservation was possible due to the unique environment of the Solnhofen limestone. This Lagerstätte was a series of shallow, oxygen-starved lagoons where deceased animals settled into fine mud. The lack of scavengers and rapid decay allowed for the preservation of delicate structures like individual feather barbs. This remarkable detail provides a rare window into a Jurassic coastal ecosystem, complete with fossils of pterosaurs, crustaceans, and even jellyfish. Despite the clear presence of feathers, the true nature of its flight remains a subject of debate. The skeleton lacked a large breastbone keel to anchor strong flight muscles, and its bones were dense and heavy. For this reason, scientists believe it was not a streamlined long-distance flyer like modern birds. Instead, it was likely a glider, or capable of only short flapping bursts. Its lifestyle was equally ambiguous, a crow-sized animal that was a versatile predator, using its teeth and claws to hunt small prey, while its wings provided a means of quick escape. Ultimately, Archaeopteryx didn't vanish in a single catastrophic event. It was outpaced by gradual refinements in other avian lineages. Its heavy tail and bones gave way to lighter, more efficient anatomies in later birds. The transition from teeth to beaks in many lineages also offered new advantages. These accumulating improvements, combined with changing environmental pressures, pushed Archaeopteryx aside. Far from being a failed experiment, it stands as one of the most compelling examples of how evolution works through a branching series of experiments rather than a single smooth line. Archaeopteryx remains one of the most celebrated transitional fossils in history. Its exceptional preservation showed us rare details, feathers kept intact after 150 million years. Its skeleton revealed a biological compromise, a versatile predator using its teeth, claws, and wings, yet limited in flight capability by its heavy dinosaurian frame. It did not go extinct due to catastrophe, but because it was outpaced by later avian lineages that evolved lighter, more efficient anatomy for flight. Archaeopteryx is tangible proof of how evolution experiments and a powerful reminder that all taxonomic boundaries are temporary.